episode, there might be some trigger right or die show. I am your host, Randi-lee. Today I'm going to be talking to Doug Lawrence, and I want to put out a trigger warning for everyone. We will be touching on the subject of suicide. Welcome, Doug. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, start with just telling us a little bit about who you are.
Let's see. I am a retired Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer, so I served for about 25 years in the RCMP. I started my own company, a company called Talent C, in the fall of 2009, and started off with it primarily focused on mentor certification and from a academic perspective, so it's being certified based on knowledge. And it's evolved since then to a place now where we offer mentor certification based on competence. And one of the areas that we actually have created a certification is for what we call a journey mentor, and that's somebody who is able to work in the mental health space as part of the support structure for mental health. So mental health, mental well-being, all of those things. So I recently lost my wife to cancer in February of this year. So yes, she's part of my story, however, so whether she's physically here or not, she's still part of my journey. So yeah.
That's very recent. Oh my goodness. Where were you located when you were in the RCMP, or did you get moved around?
Oh yes, yeah. Like I think we had about 11 or so moves. So I'm here in Regina, Saskatchewan, and so I took my my training here, and then from here I got transferred to the province of British Columbia. And it was actually when I was stationed in northern British Columbia that I met my wife, Deborah. And then so I was in Masset on the Queen Charlotte Islands, Telegraph Creek, Dease Lake, Invermere. Then we went to the Northwest Territories where I was in Hay River, Cambridge Bay, Fort McPherson, Hall Beach, back to BC again for just about 3 years. And then out to back here to Regina, where I finished my service.
Oh my God. How was the Northwest Territories? I imagine it's really, really cold up there, but
it was gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. Absolutely, like I literally had to drag my wife, I had to drag Deborah out of the north because she didn't want to leave. I remember her and my boss, who was an inspector, had come in to do an audit of our detachment, and we were finally able to coerce him to come down to our house for a home cooked meal. And he and Deborah got into it at the dining room table about, she said, "We're not going, we're staying put." And he said, "No, you're going." "No, I'm not. No, we're not. We're staying put." And their thought was at that particular time point was that she was becoming, as a term that they used was bushed, right? Too much time in isolation and then not wanting to integrate back into society at all. So it ended up they won. We ended up, it's just the way it is. We ended up being transferred back to British Columbia, and then we spent 3 years there. So, but we, like, the last posting that we had in the Northwest Territories was a small community called Hall Beach in the Eastern Arctic, right on the shores of the Arctic Ocean, way up at the top end of the Hudson Bay. And we were there was 480 Inuit and I think 20 Caucasian people that were there, most of which were teachers and or police. I was by myself as a police officer, so my closest backup was probably half an hour by aircraft. So you learned how to manage and deal, especially in some cases where they didn't speak any language other than Inuktitut. So yeah, you had to figure out a way to communicate to be able to say, okay, that's enough drinking. It's time for everybody to go home and go to bed. So right? So yeah, it was, I highly recommend it. I still have, still have visions of my mom and dad came up when we were in Cambridge Bay, and it was when they were there right at the perfect time when the Arctic char were doing their running. So when they were
Oh,
spawning, and so
yeah.
you could throw your line out, and every time you cast out, you got a hit. And my mom was a fisher person from way gone back. So I remember the one time I threw out, got a hit, handed her the rod and said, "It's yours now, Mom. You play." And she played with it for half an hour before she's able to bring it in. And she was tired,
Yeah.
but she had a smile on her face like no one has ever seen before. She just,
Aw,
it was gorgeous.
that is so awesome. And it's nice to start with all these happy memories because we're about
Yeah,
to, dig deep into the
yeah.
little bit harder stuff. So, on that happy note, tell us wherever starting point is best for your story. Tell us
Okay.
about the mental health that you've struggled with.
So I didn't know that I had PTS, post-traumatic stress. Didn't know, didn't have a clue. Um, and it wasn't until I started doing my research on my second book on mentoring and mental health that I actually kind of looked in the mirror and went, oh my gosh, you had post-traumatic stress. And then I took a step back, and it's kind of like looking in the mirror. And I took the step back and I went, you were a jerk. You were an absolute jerk to your wife and to your two kids, Matthew and Brandy. And, it was, how could you be so nasty to everybody? And then on top of it all, thinking that you were the smart one because you started drinking and alcohol, you were using that as a mask to try and make everything all right. And all it did was make things worse. And like I keep thinking back, and it's no wonder my circle of, as I called it, my circle of friends kept getting smaller and smaller, because who would want to be around anybody that, was either drunk a lot of the time, or would drink and then fall asleep, or was just plain old fashioned nasty, like just had nothing good to say about anyone or anything, and was always looking for a fight or a disagreement or an argument to get involved in.
Yeah.
And, it God bless the three of them for having the tenacity to hang in there. And they saw they saw something that I didn't see. They saw something in me that they felt it was worth doing the battle, doing the fight, to try and get me to change my behavior, to try and get me to come around to see what it was doing to the rest of the family. I remember I was doing a presentation, and I think it was in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and I was talking about mentoring and stuff. And Deborah had gone with me, as she quite often would travel with me if I was doing speaking or teaching about mentoring and stuff. And I remember this as clear as though it were yesterday. And I made a comment to the effect that, um, my family had to put up with a lot with me and all of that stuff. And I said something to the effect, but we're all here together today and making light of it. And she actually was the one that said, you don't know how lucky you are that we are still here, because we were actually thinking of walking out the door. And I went,
Wow.
oh my gosh. And to say that in front of a bunch of strangers just magnified this what she just said. It drove, it drove a stake in my heart where I went, oh, I was really a bad person.
Yeah. Actually, I was just talking to somebody last night. Not gonna say who, but I was talking to somebody last night, and they're still in the throes of their addiction with drugs. And he kept saying, you know, am I a bad dad? Because he doesn't have his kids. I said, well, you're making bad decisions.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what it comes down to is while you're in your addictive state, when you're currently in the throes of it, you make really bad decisions.
Yeah.
So, and I wasn't going to be goaded into an argument about it or anything like that, but you're making bad decisions right now. And the best place for your kids to be isn't with you right now.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. So
Good for
yeah.
you.
And that's what I like to call, just like what your wife did, a truth bomb.
Yeah.
Because yeah, sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, we need to speak the truth.
Yes.
Whether or not it's going to be easy to hear it,
Yeah.
it's what needs to happen. And I think so many of us spend time walking around on eggshells, trying not to upset somebody, that we're hiding the truth, but that's not helping the situation any.
No, and I think you've touched on a really good point, and it's one that, you know, I certainly try to get people to understand a whole lot better is when it comes to relationships, and especially ones that are, you know, with your partner for life, is you need to figure out how the two of you can communicate together. You need to be able to figure out how if your wife said something to you that you took offense to, you need to have that conversation. And it needs to be very, you know, very simple is, you know, I hope you understand that what you just said, it bothered me and this is how it bothered me. And is there a different way we can work through that or work around that so that I don't feel that way? And the more that we as couples can do that, the more that we can do that as friends, as family, as all of those different venues, the more that we can do that and have those down to earth question or conversations, the better off we're all going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
I think, you know, I just keep thinking that had we have had those conversations back when I had resorted to drinking and all the things that, you know, that I had seen in my work and stuff like that, and I was trying to figure out how to process that. I had a great person standing right beside me that would have been a great asset to be able to just tap in and say, dear, this is how I feel. And I can't figure out why. I don't understand why. Can you help me? And that's what, you know, that's what we find today is that a lot of people won't ask for help. And right, if you don't ask for help, then you're actually, you know, you're doing more harm than good to yourself in any event. And it's okay to say, help, I need help.
Yeah.
And, you know, because I've worked with a number of people that through the mentoring process, we've uncovered some mental health issues, challenges, and it's to be able to provide them with that place, that safe place where they can have that conversation, to be able to just get everything out on the table. And we may not solve it today, but we can certainly start, you know, start to move forward.
Exactly. It's not an easy fix to do, but if you don't start, you can never finish or never get to a point of feeling a little better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I'm going to give the floor back to you so you can keep going with your story.
Well, and you know, I guess the big thing, you know, was that I'm in a place now, unfortunately, having, you know, lost my wife in February, but I'm in a place right now where I'm seeing things from a different perspective. I'm seeing things, and part of that is I haven't had a drink since, well, it's probably what, 16, 17 months. I haven't, and part of that is, you know, some health issues and stuff, but it's like this major epiphany that's, you know, why didn't I see this before? But the alcohol was such a huge mask that I really had no control of my emotions. I had no control of my behaviors. And it was, you lashed out, you picked a fight wherever you could. And it wasn't good at all. Like it wasn't, and I mean, I've seen what the outcome could potentially be. Like a young 16-year-old boy makes it to the men's hockey team up in northern British Columbia, and goes home to share his great news with his family, only to walk through the door and find out both of them are totally inebriated, and decides that, well, if it's not important to them, then I guess it's not important to me, and took his own life. And, that was tough on me, because I skated beside him as he, and then was part of the team that said, welcome to the team, you're going to go on the road with us. We're going down the highway a short ways to play the other community. You're going to be on our team. You're part of our team. And, he'd have melted the snow just from how he lit himself up. And he was so happy and so proud. And then to have that all dashed, and then from my perspective was, part of my job, Northern British Columbia, was the closest hospital was 8 hours by vehicle in the middle of winter. And we had to, part of my job was, it was a sudden death. So we had to take transport the remains to a morgue so they could do an autopsy and all that stuff. And I had to do that. And here I am, figuring out, how am I going to deal with this? How am I going to process all of this when all of this is going on? My head's spinning at 100 miles an hour. And, my soon to be good wife, Deborah, says, well, I'll go with you so you don't have to be alone. But that's something new that she's never had to experience before, is, driving out in a vehicle with someone, the remains of actually a close friend, to be truthfully honest, of a close friend. So yeah, there was just, in all of those things now, when I start to think of those, each and every one of those was sort of the adding fuel to the post-traumatic stress. This whole story for me was that was just something that I didn't quite know how to deal with it. And the organization didn't really give you any guidance or any help or anything like that to be able to deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't even imagine, especially somebody that and 8 hours away. I'm really lucky where I live, so I'm in Canada too, but everything's super close for us.
Yeah.
I live in Southern Ontario. We're quite full of things. Everything you can imagine is right there within 2 hours at the most.
Yeah.
So needing to go 8 hours with, like you said, a close friend who had done that, I could not even imagine.
Yeah, and it's still, everything is so vivid, even still. Like like, how did we survive even getting, past that? And then I kind of fast forward to, today, where I'm, working with individuals that are dealing with that sort of thing. I was working with an individual that had PTS big time and had childhood trauma and all that sort of stuff. And it's, even for me, it was triggers. It triggered back some memories. So when I was trying to, be of help, to help guide this person, to help them, get rid of all that baggage that they had, I was taking a lot of that on myself. And then that just caused my triggers to kick in. And all of a sudden, I'm getting flashbacks of the young lad. I'm getting flashbacks of this, and I'm going, and I can feel that it's at times it's starting to pull you down. And you go, just a minute, whoa, I need to get control of this. I need to get control of how I'm feeling. I need to get control of my behaviors, because I'm heading back down that rabbit hole again, and I don't want to go back there again.
So what was maybe the turning point that finally made you go, okay, I got to ask for help. I got to stop doing what I'm doing?
I think it was more so around, I was seeing my family was becoming eroded, and because of that, and a lot of the conversations we were having, we in reality didn't really need to have, because they should never have taken place in the first place. And I think it was right around that time frame where we were working really, really hard on what I call effective communication. So communicating with each other effectively. And that's when sort of the epiphany or the light went on, and I went, oh my goodness. And then I started to do research on mentoring and mental health for my second book. And it was then that I went, oh my gosh, you really did have post-traumatic stress. And now what are you going to do to deal with that? And, the idea was I had to reach out, to my family to be able to say, I think I had post-traumatic stress. And I mean, we have started the healing process, but I need more help. I need somebody, when I start to look like I'm heading off track here, somebody needs to push me back the other way and say, no, that's not the road for you to go down. Here's the road we want you to go down, and to be able to do that. And so, like, I'm in a place today where I'm cognizant always of my triggers. I'm cognizant of when my behavior becomes somewhat undesirable even to myself. It's at that time point that I will reach out to somebody, and God bless all those people that are out there that I've turned to that have said, I am truly lucky because I've had those individuals that would, at the drop of a hat, would pick up the phone or would grab, let's jump on Zoom and have a conversation. And I need to see you. I need to physically see you. So let's do the virtual chat right now, anyhow. And then when, pre-pandemic, it was, let's go for a coffee. Let's go grab a coffee and have a conversation.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I know one day you'll be able to grab a coffee again. I don't know what it's like out in Saskatchewan, but we're locked down again here in Ontario.
Yeah, we're not too bad. Like I do periodically. I'm getting crafty, I guess, because I'll go to a big, huge park.
Yeah.
And we'll socially distance in the park, and then at least then you get the physical aspect of having that conversation, and
Yes.
if you want to have a coffee, you stop at Tim Hortons or wherever, and you go through the drive-through, grab a coffee and do that, and that's helped somewhat, but it's still not like what it was where somebody would shoot you an email and say, meet you at the coffee shop in 15 minutes, and away you'd go. And you had that out, sort of, I guess is the way to describe it. I had an out to get rid of that, whatever that anxiety, whatever the stress or whatever it was that was building up inside me, because my triggers kicked in, or something different happened, or the ones that I kind of take my hat off to are the mom and dad that are working from home today, and who also have to homeschool their children on top of that.
Yeah.
And I take my hat off to them, because they're dealing with anxiety, with stress of trying to juggle working from home and jockeying for position as to who gets what place in the house to do their work. And
yeah, that's why I'm in the basement.
yeah. And then you throw on top of that, the fact they got to homeschool, hopefully only one, but in some families it's probably two or three or more. And, that just adds to all of that. And those are all triggers that, when I sense or feel somebody else's anxiety and pain, those are triggers that take me back to some of the things that I had to experience in my time during, my time in the RCMP.
Yeah. What kind of strategies do you use other than grabbing a coffee with somebody? Is there other strategies that you use to deal with that?
I do a lot of reflecting. So I look at, if I've dealt with something before, so then I'll do what I call a reflective process, where I'll ask myself, so what went well the last time, what went well, what didn't go well, and what will I do different next time? So I use reflection a lot to be able to, and that's part of the mentoring process as well. So, I certainly, I use all of those tools as much as I possibly can.
Wonderful. Yeah, I love hearing everybody's different tools, because there's so many things out there. Like you're the first one actually to say reflective questions like that. A
Yeah.
lot of people journaling, but to ask yourself in those terms is kind of different. And I like that. That's good.
Well,
Yeah.
and one of the other techniques is that, and with the journal, is you use the journal to unload all of your, stress and anxiety and all of that. And I've done this myself and it works great, is take your journal, go in the backyard and burn it.
I have heard about doing that. Yes.
It's fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, it seems like it would just be like that release. Here's all my bad thoughts or whatever. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Just let it go.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be really nosy right now. I mean, you're spilling your guts anyways, but I'm gonna be really nosy. Because I'm curious, because I've had guests on the show who have also had alcohol addictions or drug addictions, and some of them have used AA and some of them have not. So I'm just curious if you used the STEPS program or if you are trying something else that's working for you.
I think for me, it was basically cold turkey. So,
Okay.
health-wise, I needed to do something to, so I'm waiting for what they call an ablation. So with the heart, which it's all to do with the circuitry and all that
Oh,
sort of
okay.
stuff. And lots of people that have done the procedure or are waiting to do it continue on with normal lifestyle. My cardiologist had said to me, it probably wouldn't hurt, for you to not drink.
Okay.
And I said, yeah, well, I'm just not sure about that. And then I come home and I sort of went, I'd like to have a little bit longer of a life yet. So, and I seem to be a whole lot nicer of a person to be around when I'm not drinking. So
Yeah, that's
I went,
usual.
yeah, isn't it? And I went for the most part cold turkey.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just so curious because I've had a lot of different guests talk about, and there has been a few that are like you, just cold turkey, and some say, the steps are the best thing. And that's what I love. And there's so many varieties, so many choices of what is best for you. So it's great to know that for somebody who's listening, who's maybe went, I've tried the steps, that didn't work for me. Well, there you go. Or you're on this side of me, there you go. Listen to Doug and do what he did. Right. There's so many choices out there, so many different opportunities.
And one thing, and I'm bad at this, but I always tie it back to mentoring. So a lot of the things that I have kind of mentors in my life that when I had that kind of like, when you go through AA, the buddy system, the sponsor, the buddy system. Yeah. I have those people that I could go to if I needed to. But I just keep asking myself, do you really need to take that drink? And I mean, I've got alcohol here because I've got friends and that like to have a drink and stuff like that. And, so I'll go and pour them drinks and I'll have a can of pop or some juice or something like that, or a non-alcoholic drink of some sort, just if, sometimes you feel like you need to have something in your hand.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So, but, and I don't prescribe that if you come to my house and you can't have a drink or anything like that, because I'm okay with it. And I've been okay with it now for, like I said, 16 months. And I actually, when I wake up in the morning, I do enjoy how I feel every morning.
Good.
There's no cloud. There's no, your stomach's not doing flip-flops. And I have a clear head for my day ahead. Kind of rhymes a little, but
maybe your next book will be poetry.
Could be. Yeah. It would certainly be different than the one that I'm working on, the mentoring mental health aspect. And it's been a lot of work, and because I think a lot of it has been it's hit some raw nerves for me as I've gone through and, certainly seen that, but it's coming together quite nicely.
Wonderful. writing that type of book itself is probably kind of therapeutic for you as well.
It is, but what it's also done though is it's also created triggers where I've recalled events from a long time ago, you know, that I'm now re-experiencing and I'm putting on paper. So it's kind of it's kind of a catch-22 in that you're taking those, you're recalling those events, all of a sudden a flashback happens, and then you're writing them out, which is the cleansing of the soul of getting all of that out onto paper. So it kind of wears sort of two hats, and
Sounds like an exhausting book to write.
well, it's certainly taken its time coming out. So, but
That's okay, it means it'll be good.
yeah, I hope so. I hope readers find it to be that way, as I'm sure they will, because there's some really good surprises in this book for people.
That's exciting. I love surprises.
Yeah.
So what would you tell somebody who is listening right now and dealing with their own PTSD?
I would say it's okay to call out for help. I would get help, you know, and I know that the support structure is a bit loose or a bit weak right now, but I do know, you know, some people have reached out to grab a mentor, to get somebody to just, you know, a mentor is not going to prescribe anything for you. They're not going to, you know, come up with anything medically related, but they're going to be standing there beside you as you go on that journey to be able to heal. And I've worked with a number of people where sometimes, you know, it's as simple as just listening and hearing what the person has to say, and maybe asking the odd question. But everybody keeps telling me, I'm working with a young lady right now, that I have to know when to be quiet, because if I start to get involved in the conversation with her, it increases her anxiety. And my best bet is to just zip my lip and listen.
Oh, okay.
And then she starts to come down and her anxiety lessens. And then we can have a good conversation, and we can talk about, you know, some different things that we might be able to do that would help, you know, her deal with some of the things she's dealing with.
Good.
You know, that's the big thing, is if you can find a mentor that is willing to work with you in that space, latch onto them with both hands and don't let them go.
Wonderful. Just like, gotcha.
Yeah.
Love it. And where can people pick up your books?
So the book is not published yet, but it will be published this fall. And
But you do have one other one that is already.
I do,
published, right?
yes. Yeah. I have The Gift of Mentoring, and it's available on Amazon.ca. So you can go there. I believe there's the hard copy, and also I think it's ebook is available as well. And it sort of lays out for you the foundation of mentoring, what it's all about, and the tools and all of that. And there's some really interesting case studies that are in there as well, that you can, you know, go through and take a look. I do encourage anybody who's entertaining getting into or doing mentoring, especially if you're thinking of it from a mental health perspective, is get the book and go through it. And it's a quick and easy read. It's, I think, 120 pages tops. And my best way to describe it is that I had a couple people read the book, and they said that it was an easy read, and it was as though we were sitting together on a park bench and I was reading the book to them.
Love those.
Isn't that nice? Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful. And then, so the other one is coming out in the fall this year, you said?
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. Wonderful. And where can people follow you?
So they can reach me on LinkedIn. So just do a search on Doug Lawrence and it should pop up. You can also, if you want, you can go to my website at www.talentc. So the word talent with the letter C on the end.ca. And finally, if you're into something a little more personal, you can shoot me an email and I'd be delighted to get back to you. And you can reach me at doug.lawrence, that's LAWRENCE, at talentc, so talent with the letter C on the end.ca.
Wonderful. And those links will be down in the description below, so you can very easily get them and hook up with Doug, because it sounds like he's got some great experience to share. And this was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me again. I really, truly appreciate it.
It was so much fun talking to Doug. Be sure to check out his links down in the description below. Of course, remember that we do have a merch store, and 10% of those proceeds goes back to the Canadian Mental Health Association. And remember, the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly.